And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome, Buccaneers fans, to the ultimate gridiron expedition that will set your hearts racing and sail your spirits to another legendary season. This is RBLR Sports with the RBLR Bucs crew, your one-way ticket to the electrifying world of our beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Musab here with you, one of tonight's hosts, who's feeling pretty darn fired up right now because tonight's number of the week is 3. Why is that? I told you last week it was 4 this week because it's 3. We got 3 more weeks till we see some action by our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So keep your head up, listeners. The end of the offseason is near. Better clean up that grill and stock up on the beer. You feel me? Well, we shall leave no stone unturned and no rumor unexplored. Whether you're a seasoned fan with the scars of past battles or a newly minted Buccaneer supporter, we welcome all aboard as we embark on this enchanting journey together on the SS Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't begin this journey without my partner in crime. He brings charisma that rivals the brightest stadium lights. He's got you covered like an impenetrable secondary defense. He'll have you screaming at the top of your lungs, "Go Bucs!" The one and only Mr. Carter Brantley. Carter, how we doing tonight?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic after that wonderful intro. My goodness. But yeah, like you said, 3 weeks away, 3 to the head, just like Carmelo. Yeah, I'm hype. I'm really excited to finally be, talking about some real games because the offseason's all fun and stuff, talk about the draft, free agency, blah, blah, blah. But nothing like actually watching some damn football games instead of just talking about it. So I'm really excited. But yeah, we got a good show up ahead. But before we get into anything super duper football related, I do want to start off with a personal question, Musab, just to get to know you a little bit more, because I feel like we as a collective, we don't really interact with our fans and give them a chance to really know us. So, what's your favorite game day snack or beverage?
Ooh, let's say beverage-wise, I drink everything. You know what I'm saying? But from the top of my head, you can't go wrong with an ice cold glass or two of some of that Publix lemonade. Snack wise, I am a huge enthusiast for some of that fresh out of the crock pot buffalo chicken dip with the tortilla chips. But
Mm,
that dip got to be extra soft, Carter, and creamy, because sometimes when it cools down, it gets hard, and then you put your
mhm.
chip in the dip, and then it breaks
Yeah,
halfway, and your
yeah,
buddies are looking at you like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You know what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah. Yeah, it's a party foul almost. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah, I'm with you. I like the chicken biscuit crackers for the buffalo chicken dip. I don't know. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. My mom has them all the time when we have those dip. I'm with you. That's a fire ass game day snack. Um, I don't know. I'm a big fan of pizza and wings. That's the kind of the classic go to for me when it comes to game day snacks. I mean, I'm kind of a bigger dude. I like to eat myself, so I eat any and everything. You know how that is. I dig the lemonade. My girlfriend's more of a lemonade person than I am, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, my favorite drink is water. Don't get me wrong. Like big H2O guy. Shout out to Adam Sandler and the Water Boy. But man, something about a nice crisp Mexican Coke. Out of the glass bottle
Ooh.
with the real
Oh yeah.
sugar. Ooh, man, it really hits the spot. Especially when you got it in the fridge for a while and then you bust that bad boy out, break it open with the can opener and just oof, perfection.
There's something about non-American Cokes that are they just hit
Way
different. I'll
better.
tell you this, I got some family in Pakistan and they use cane sugar instead of like that artificial stuff that America
Yeah.
uses.
Mhm.
And yeah, it hits different, man. So I exactly know what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know how Americans are. They always screw everything up. So, it's just everything always sucks, including American Coke. But anyways, after some light banter, let's get in some Buck stuff. There's been a lot of brouhaha, uh, commotion, whatever you want to call it, over the running back situation in the NFL right now, and rightfully so. There's been some pretty brutal, just very IRS cutthroat business like methodologies being executed right now by NFL teams when it comes to running backs. And I know that I myself have been a proponent of these. Me and Zach, another co host of this show, who's not on tonight, have kind of, I don't want to say butted heads. That's dramatic, but we have had multiple discussions about this problem. Just the fact that the running back position is not as valued by NFL teams as it used to be. So with all that being said, the biggest one is Saquon Barkley. He was, he's on the New York Giants. He had a pretty good year last year. The Giants in general had a really good year, but him and the Giants failed to reach an agreement by the deadline. So he will be playing under a franchise tag this season. There's rumors that he might hold out. But all of that to say, there was a Bleacher Report article that published maybe some trade packages or something for Evans and Barkley, for Mike Evans and Saquon Barkley, that also nets the Bucs a second rounder, which I thought was really intriguing because it essentially is just a salary swap, because I don't know that the Bucs extend Barkley, and I don't know that Barkley plays under a franchise tag. But regardless, it's a nice way for the Bucs to pick up a pick. So with all that being said, would you do this trade? Like, just straight up, just no other questions, but would you do Evans for Barkley in a second, just assuming that he plays? Do you think that that's a fair deal?
Oh, no, absolutely not at all. It's
Really?
not worth investing in us for us to give them our star player. I mean, this is Mike Evans we're talking about. He is everything to our organization. He's worked well with every quarterback we've had in the NFL, or that he's played in the NFL with. I don't think his production is slowing down at all. I mean, this guy has 9 straight, 1,000+ yards seasons. He's a Buccaneers legend in my book, and I don't know. I mean, just looking at Saquon Barkley, I get it. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's racked up like 4,000 yards, but I don't know, man. His career's kind of been a little bit banged up with the injuries as well. He had that kind of ACL tear back in 2020, and I don't know. It's just not worth spending the big bucks. I don't think we should be breaking the bank for someone like him, and for us to give away someone like Mike Evans. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I certain your points are incredibly valid, and trading for Saquon definitely comes with its own set of risks. You're paying kind of top dollar for a running back on a team that, the last season the running game was awful because the offensive line was so bad. But they have made some improvements in that area. Plus, I think infusing Saquon into this our offense would be really fun. But all of that aside, I don't know that Saquon even plays, even if he gets traded to the Bucs. It's kind of one of those things where it would seem like just a way for the Giants to get his contract off the books and maybe net themselves a pretty good player by just giving away a draft pick. It's kind of they do it in basketball all the time. The Oklahoma City Thunder seem to rack up NBA draft picks just by taking on bad contracts. So the Bucs would kind of be doing that. They'd kind of just be getting a second round pick, so they'd eat kind of Saquon's salary for the season, which certainly isn't ideal if you're looking to be competitive this year. And I'm with you. I would hate to trade Evans. I'd hate for the Bucs to lose Evans. But at the same time, if it's the middle of the year, even in the future, let's say that Saquon sits out, or maybe he's even playing, but he's just kind of playing okay, and the Giants are in the competition, they're potentially going to win their division, or maybe just at least be in the mix for the playoffs. And they're looking for a wideout, just someone to help Daniel Jones, and the Bucs are maybe struggling. I don't know. It's kind of an intriguing trade in my mind. I don't know, but I do understand. I don't want the Bucs to do this trade and then extend Saquon. That off the table. So how would you feel more okay with it if it was in that context? Like maybe it was the Bucs saying, okay, this is just kind of a salary dump situation. We're just going to take on Saquon's contract, let him sit out the year and try to test out free agency. Or are you still, nope, I don't want any part of this?
No, I don't know. I just don't want to be part of it, just because, I mean,
Fair
then we
enough.
got big shoes to fill with Mike Evans' absence.
Absolutely.
I mean, he is really like one of our, probably the star player that I'm thinking about, especially on the offensive side with Brady's departure, especially, of course. It's just so, Card, you can probably maybe inform me a little bit. It's just, I don't know. I'm just not too enticed on, getting someone like him. It just, especially when it comes to the money aspect as well. This looks like this is supposed to be kind of a Giants win situation just by getting rid of him. And these kind of proposals that are created by whoever are just ways for people just to say, hey, this is how the Giants could succeed or something. But I don't know. I think we're gonna have our own issues this upcoming season, but I don't think that we should, just throw away our star player like Mike Evans. Um, like many of people have said it, because when I was looking up this kind of information as well, I mean, a lot of people said that, listen, Mike Evans is gonna die with the Buccaneers. I don't think anyone wants him to leave, and there's just gonna be a lot of, backfire from the fans and from everyone if this were to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's certainly a big part of it. The fan base, just kind of everyone loves Mike Evans, and it seems like Mike Evans loves here. He loves Tampa. So it would be a difficult pill to swallow for the fan base. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but I think it's just Bleacher Report and other news outlets like it kind of throw these trade proposals together, just to have something to talk about. I mean, it's that time of year for the off season. They want something to talk about. But I also see the validity in, basically just a team, like the Bucs, who are in a rebuild mode, trying to get more draft capital moving forward while they kind of retool this roster, because it is an aging roster. This is kind of maybe going to be one of the last years that they have Mike Evans, Levante David, a lot of these other older guys. So maybe it's kind of a last ditch effort by the Bucs to kind of try to rebuild some of that draft capital and just rebuild this team. But like you said, Mike Evans should die a Buccaneer. That's a great way of putting it, Musab. Yeah, definitely would love to see Mike Evans in a Bucs uniform for the rest of his life. But since we're talking about this running back position problem, how do you feel about the state? Just kind of a big picture. Maybe not necessarily super focused on the Bucs. Um, the running back position's in a terrible state right now. I mean, guys like Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, they're not extended, while, Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, all unsigned. So there's a bit of a problem. The NFL seems to have this, it's just kind of this ruthless way of looking at running backs, and they contribute just as much, if not more so, as the rest of the roster. They get banged up and everything like that. So I guess this is a very long-winded way of saying, do you see any solution to this problem? Because it's a problem. A lot of NFL running backs have been very vocal about how they're underpaid. So do you see a solution to this problem? Maybe more money guaranteed on their rookie deals, or does it even need to be fixed? Maybe you're like, hey, that's just how the market bears out. That's just how it be sometimes. How do you feel about this subject, himself?
Ooh, I'm leaning more towards what you first said. I think, again, I'm not a business major and I didn't graduate with a business degree, but it's got to do something with the kind of money aspect. I think, yeah, they are underpaid, and it is concerning to see people like Barkley and Delvin Cook having these kind of issues, or even Ezekiel Elliott with who wants to sign them. They're going for the big bucks, and I think that they do deserve it as well. But it's hard to kind of make those kind of moves when their teams or other teams around the league are prioritizing other positions. I think every team or a lot of teams have also made stupid decisions as to how much money they're giving out to certain players.
Right.
Something they're giving a lot more than that player actually deserves. But I guess it's also along the lines of, then, as you said, they're ruthless. Then they're playing hardball with these running backs, especially the younger ones as well, kind of taking advantage of the fact that, they don't have a huge rep, even though, I mean, people like Barkley and Elliott, they've been studs in the past. It just makes me think that, they're kind of just doing this along the lines of, how do I say this? Just that, maybe they kind of need to, think about what they're asking for. How also trying to kind of think about, maybe they need to. I'll probably just leave it at that. I'm just trying to say what I'm, yeah. I'm kind of just I'm hitting I'm hitting a wall right now.
No, for
I
sure.
think I think. Oh,
It's a
as I was just saying, it was they're just being ruthless, saying, hey, you had some dinks and doings, and for that reason, go find another place.
for
We'll
sure.
find another replacement for you. It's kind of like the work field, Carter. You make a few errors, your boss is being an asshole to you, and he's like, what? Let's just get rid of this guy. Clearly, he can be replaced. We'll find
Right.
someone cheaper and better, and someone who is going to be more dedicated, or who's going to be more of a slave to us with by us paying them less.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, It's brutal. Like you said, it's very ruthless. It's a very corporate IRS kind of cutthroat approach where there's just kind of zero sum gained, all about the bottom line. And what's difficult is running back salaries are going down, the salary cap is going up. So there's no solution in regards to, oh, well, they just need to keep increasing the salary cap. No, that's not the issue, because quarterback salaries are going through the roof, wide receivers, edge rushers. So clearly the money isn't the issue. It's how teams value the position. Like you said, they're replaceable. You can go draft a rookie in the third or fourth round that's going to give you equal production or maybe a little bit less, but in terms of value, it's going to equal out. So yeah, like you said, you hit a wall because there's no real solution to it. There's not a tangible, it's hard. Like, a lot of people have kind of thrown a lot of ideas out there in the recent days. Like I mentioned earlier, the rookie contracts being a bit longer, or maybe more guaranteed money on those rookie deals for running backs. But it feels weird to pick a specific position and say, okay, this position, even if it's drafted in the fourth or fifth round, gets more money than, say, an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, or et cetera. So I don't know. It's kind of an awkward thing. The league is becoming more pass heavy. Obviously, that's been talked about ad nauseum. So that certainly contributes to this phenomenon. But yeah, it was just something that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. And it's a hard conversation because a lot of people are like us. They're like, we don't have any thoughts. What are you supposed to say to this? The market bears out what it's going to bear out. So yeah, it's a hard conversation. So yeah, I don't even know what to say. But what I will ask is, do you think that this affects the Bucs moving forward at all? I mean, I think that the Bucs have done a pretty good job. They did the Lenny thing. They gave Lenny kind of a lot of money for a running back, but that was in a Super Bowl year. You can't really have any qualms about that. But how do you think this affects the Bucs moving forward? Maybe with Rashad White. Maybe, do you see, if he has some productive seasons, they have to face a decision. Do they extend him, or do they just let him walk and go try to find more money elsewhere? Essentially, how do you hope the Bucs continue to move forward with the running back position in the context of these issues?
Yeah, moving forward, it's going to be also dependent on how Rashad White, does
For
this
sure.
upcoming season. As you mentioned, teams, they just have different priorities when it comes to the running back situation. Moving forward, I think this should be on our priority list. I think Rashad White will do well. I don't think he's going to completely ball out and become a stud, and he's going to be a kind of jaw-dropping player. For that reason, I do think that we need to think about that, because I have no expectations / I see nothing coming out of Chase Edmonds or Keyshawn Vaughn.
For
Okay,
sure.
so for that reason, he needs a supporting cast member in the running back room. This is going to be a trial year for all of us. We're a young team with low expectations by our fans. This year was bound to happen with Brady's departure, including some others. But hey, I think we did decent with the off-season moves we made. But yeah, moving forward, I think this is going to be on our priority list. Something to look into throughout the season, and especially during the next year's off-season.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely not something that I necessarily see rearing its ugly head. They're not going to, like you said, Rashad White should be a very good running back. Is he going to be Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs or any of these other guys? I don't know. I hope so. But, like you said, it's mostly just about trying to reevaluate, or, look back at the position come this next offseason, because it doesn't necessarily look like they're going to make any more major moves when it comes to that room. But then again, who knows? But one major move that you should consider is definitely, moving to the RBLR shop. There's definitely some fire gear on there. Definitely some cool stuff to check out. But if you're looking for a difference maker, you got to check it out. They got the Rays, Bucks, Lightning, and Rowdies, all that stuff. Unlike the running back room, which is debatable in the front office, apparently, the the gear that you're going to find there is definitely worth the money. We also get 10% off everything in the store. We'll give you a promo code for that, Cannon, CANNONS. Type that bad boy in, and you'll get 10% off your entire order. So after that shameless shot plug, we're going to move on from the running back discussion and move to the quarterback rankings, because this has been discussed ad nauseum, but not necessarily on this show, at least in the scope of the division, because the division's gone through an entire quarterback upheaval. None of the teams are going to have the same starting quarterback that they did at the beginning of last season going into this season. So if you look at the NFC South, how does the quarterback ranking kind of shake out for you? I mean, I know that Baker's the assumed starter, but I'd love to hear. I know you're a huge anti-Trask guy, but just for argument's sake, how does Baker line up versus how does Kyle Trask line up? Maybe they're the exact same. I don't know. But I'd love to hear your NFC South quarterback rankings, Musab.
Okay, I'd be happy to talk about it. And what I will say first and foremost, Baker and Trask are not the same. I'll start out with that. All right. I'll just kind of, just give it kind of a little broad, my broad opinions. I'll just kind of start out with the top five. At fifth right now, I'll probably just put Desmond Ritter with a little sprinkle of Taylor Heineke. I don't know what's supposed to happen with that situation. He's young. We've only seen, or the league's only seen a little bit from him compared to others. Who knows how that works out? He doesn't really have a lot of receiving weapons outside of Drake London and tight end Kyle Pitts. But now moving down to the fourth and third and the second, this is where it gets weird. Okay. I'm going to throw Baker in there. I'm going to throw Jameis Winston in there just because he has potential. He has potential to make something happen in the event Carr gets injured. He starts screwing up. I don't know, some other kind of New Orleans Saints, behind the scenes tension builds up. And then I'm also going to add Bryce Young. I'm going to tell you this. People got Bryce Young, kind of in the top like three. I have no idea why they're doing this. I'll probably put him at like fourth, if anything. We barely seen the guy play in the NFL. He's got a small stature. I know people have talked about that. I don't think that's a huge contributing factor. But, what am I supposed to say about a guy that's never even played in the NFL just yet? Sure, he did amazing. He did amazing with the University of Alabama, but I'm going to sprinkle that with Andy Dalton just because if things don't work out with Bryce Young, they're going to have to count on Andy Dalton. But I'll say this, those Panther fans better be praying things work out for Young because that's not something you want to, that's not something you want to see happen is boom, you just wasted a pick on Bryce Young. It gets hard. It's hard for, any college quarterback to adjust to the NFL. And that's why I got Baker, Winston, Young, and Dalton, I guess, a little bit fighting for that little 4-3-2 spot. I'm just going to kind of just leave Derek Carr at, number one, just because, they kind of have the best quarterback situation right now with the whole kind of starter backup duo in the league. He's got the weapons that he maybe didn't have before, with the Raiders. And New Orleans is really banking on this guy to work out. And I'm hoping, he's aware of that as well. So I think, they're going to make the organization's going to make, his success with the rest of his teammates a priority. So, that's where I got him right now. I don't even have Trask in those ranks at all. I'll probably just throw him at 6 just because we've barely seen the dude play. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Carter, what about you, man?
Fair enough. I like that you included 5 because I got a little confused. I was like, wait, there's 4 teams, but every team in this NFC South division has questionable quarterback spots. So you can absolutely throw 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks into this discussion. But I'll stick with 4 just because I'll stick with the 4 assumed starters. But I am with you. I do think that if Jameis is given a chance, who knows what can happen? It's the 30 for 30 thing. It's kind of a what are you going to do? But definitely Derek Carr number 1. I'm with you. I'm going to go Bryce Young number 2 just because I don't know. I'm a huge Bryce Young fan. I think that he's got a chance to kind of be. I know that as people that Bucs fans, we hate Drew Brees, the Saints, and all that stuff. But Drew Brees was a fantastic quarterback. There's no doubt about it. And I think Bryce Young can be this generation's Drew Brees. I think he's a little shorter in stature, but he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks we've seen come out of college in a long time. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. So he'll be number 2. And then I've got Baker at 3 just because Desmond Ritter at 4, even though Taylor Heineke might come in at some point because who knows what you're going to get out of Desmond Ritter. But I got Baker at 3 just because he's more of a proven commodity. And then I'll have Desmond Ritter kind of rounded out at 4. If Andy Dalton's starting for the Panthers at any point, that either means Young got injured or something horrible has gone wrong. So I hope we don't have to see Andy Dalton just from a football fan's perspective. But definitely interesting to kind of see how this division quarterback battle shakes out. But moving on, but still talking about the quarterback position, there's a lot of talk that's been a lot on talk shows and just, NFL Network, ESPN, and all that stuff, because the Cardinals are in a lot of upheaval. Kyler Murray is coming back from a pretty serious injury. They fired Cliff Kingsbury. It's kind of a new era in Arizona. So there's been a lot of discussion about Kyler Murray and his big contract and whether or not they're going to stick with him. So just from the perspective of Kyler Murray, what are your thoughts on him? I mean, just before we get into whether we'd like him on the Bucs or not, what's your opinion on him? I mean, what do you think of when you think of the guy Kyler Murray?
Trash last season, coming off an injury, which as of right now, I feel like he's definitely not going to be playing in the beginning of the season. At least that's what I think. But correct me if I'm wrong on that. But on top of that, kind of that off the field tension regarding how he feels about himself and the rest of his teammates. This guy is being paid the big bucks. He needs to elevate the play of those kind of younger, cheaper players around him, just because the organization spent so much money on this guy. So he's gonna have to prove to a lot of people that he still is, a decent quarterback. He's still got potential. But that's all I can kind of, say right now. Let's see what happens with him this upcoming season / what, the organization wants to do with him. It's kind of an interesting situation right now for me. I would probably say he's had impressive, games and pretty solid seasons in the past. He's done pretty darn well. But he's kind of going through a little bit of a hiccup right now, and then kind of this whole kind of new fresh start with the organization, the new GM, the new coach. I'm curious to see what happens with that. Guard, I mentioned earlier with kind of Bryce Young. I'm not those kind of guys that are going to be like, oh, wow, this guy did phenomenal in the past, or, we've heard great things about him, this coach or this GM or this player. I'm really, a lot of thoughts and, excitement tends to, deteriorate or go downhill throughout the season for a lot of teams and a lot of fans. And that's why I'm not going to say I'm pessimistic, but I'm also not optimistic about, this guy's future. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's a very fair and astute point. I think the off the field stuff with the, the focus, the lack of, I don't want to say accountability, but it seems like, there's been rumors about his preparation level not being there. Everyone makes those jokes about, the Call of Duty double XP weekends lining up with Cardinals games. And those are brutal. I'm not going to go that far, but I do think it's a valid point, and it's a valid thing to bring up just because he is a pretty talented guy, one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough because he's had some relatively talented teams. He's obviously dealt with some injury history, as well as the teams around him. The Cardinals have suffered a lot of injuries across the board the past few years. But, he was a borderline MVP candidate for the first half of the 2021 or 2020 season. I can't remember, the years run together, but he was playing really well, just leading an explosive offense in Arizona. So I was kind of high on Kyler Murray, but like you said, inconsistencies, injuries have all come into play here. And it's kind of hard to really judge, hard to really say what he's going to do. To answer your injury question, they're saying he has set what has been called a lofty personal goal of being ready by week 1. I don't know that happens. It seems like the general consensus is that he's going to at least have to sit out a few more weeks with that ACL injury, but he'll come back at some point this season, hopefully. But with all of that being said, let's say that it's kind of just, I think that this is the worst case scenario personally. The Bucs have a very mess season. They can't get Caleb Williams. They're too low in the draft, but they're also not, Baker or Kyle Trask. Neither of them shine. They're both kind of just there. They're not the answer. They're not the future moving forward. Let's say that the Cardinals are, because the Cardinals have been projected by a lot of people to be the worst team in the NFL. So let's say the Cardinals get that number 1 overall pick and they just are like, all right, who wants Kyler Murray? We're done with him. We're moving on. I mean, how much would you be willing to give up for Kyler Murray, if anything? Would you even like to see him in a Bucs uniform? What would be your feelings in this hypothetical scenario?
Oh, man, this is a good question. As of right now, I'm kind of iffy, leaning towards saying no. I get our quarterback situation could be looking super ugly at the end of this season if things don't work out with Trask and Baker Mayfield. But we need to have options. I don't want to be thinking about Kyler Murray as, okay, hey, listen, we had a crappy year. We might not be able to get the draft pick quarterback we wanted. So, hey, let's look at the other crappy team in the league, which is the Cardinals, and let's see if maybe Kyler Murray could work out with us. I don't know. We're far out from the 2024 draft, and there's been a lot of chit chat about Caleb Williams. And in the event that we aren't able to get him just because someone else does before us, is there anyone else that you'd be interested in picking?
That's a great question. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I mean, there's kind of, you kind of have to wait for the college football season to play out and stuff like that. There aren't really a lot of a lot of guys out there that I would really be sold on. I mean, there was this past year, you saw it with Will Levis. He just fell like a rock, through draft boards, which was crazy because at the beginning he was considered to maybe be flirting with a first round pick. I mean, there's a lot of talk about him definitely going top 5. Yeah, if they can't get Caleb Williams, I'm not really super sold on a lot of the other guys. There's that North Carolina guy, Drake May, I think his name is. He's really, really talented. He had a really nice season, replacing Sam Howell, who's with the Washington Commanders. But man, I don't know. The North Carolina quarterback trope always scares me because of Mitch Trubisky. And I know that that's not fair. I know that that's silly, but I don't know. You just see Mitch Trubisky go number 2 overall out of North Carolina and then does what he does. And they passed on Mahomes and Watson and all these guys. So I don't know. It kind of gets me iffy. But then again, there have been plenty of very, very excellent quarterbacks that weren't taken first overall. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe trying to dip their toe in, but, in my opinion, the Kyler Murray situation is just a bit more fun and enticing just because his contract's going to be up relatively soon. I think sooner than a lot of people think. I think it expires in maybe 2025. I'm not 100% solid on that, but regardless, I think that it gives them kind of a softer landing, just because if they take the flyer on the guy, spend a 5th round pick on him, send it to Arizona, then, you lose out on a 5th round pick and you have to pay him a lot of money for a year. But if it works out, then it could work out really well. And if it doesn't, then you wash your hands, say sayonara, see you later, no worries. So that was kind of where my head was at with that one. But, it's definitely interesting to throw these kind of ideas out there. But we are kind of nearing the end of our episode. We really appreciate y'all tuning in, listening to us jibber jabber about the Bucs. Without y'all, we don't have a show. So thank you again. If you enjoyed what you heard, definitely like and subscribe wherever you're listening to us on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast. Also give us a follow at RBLR Sports on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have a TikTok now. So definitely check that out. I've also got an article published on Creative Loafing if you're trying to read some stuff. We've also got some great stuff on the Rays if you're trying to check that out on our website. So thank you again for listening. And as always, from me and my co-host Musab Tariq, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.